What's up, y'all? It's me, Erica. We are down here, honey. We are down here. I'm trying to, honey, the kids are out. Let's see. Okay. So, what are we talking about here? Yes. Okay, so we down here. So I came down here to talk about blue therapy, y'all. Did I kind of talk about Married to Medicine yesterday? It wasn't a full review. I don't know what's up with Married to Medicine. We're going to talk about blue therapy, but I'll just talk a little bit about Married to Medicine. The scene at Quad's house was too much. Quad going from 0 to 100 is too much. It's too, that level of drama. No, Quad, we're not doing that no more. It's too much. All that hollering and screaming. Poor Toya, she was crying. But like the thing is, Toya, you be participating in the mess. That's the crazy part. It's like Toya participate in the passive aggressiveness. Bitch, you done brought somebody uninvited on every single trip you've been on this season. Every single trip. After a while, you have to stop doing that. That's rude. It's rude and disrespectful. You're not telling anybody you're bringing Carrie and Lisa to Washington, D.C. You didn't tell anybody you were bringing anybody to contest this thing. You didn't tell anybody you were bringing somebody over Heavenly's house. You're being passive aggressive and you're doing it on purpose. So that's why when you out there crying in the middle of the street, everybody's looking at you like, girl, wipe your tears away, because you bringing people that are not even invited to events. You brought Carrie to Quad's house, and then Carrie got slick talking about she got an investment property like this. Bitch, you don't have an elevator. Get the fuck out of my house. What are you here for? You weren't even invited. And Toya keeps doing stuff like that. And like I said, you in the middle of the street crying, you mad because somebody's hollering and screaming at you. Stop your passive aggressive bullshit, Toya. That's it. Because you be participating right there. Nobody's doing nothing to you, girl. Nobody's doing anything to you. You dancing with the devil, bitch. Now, that's as much as I gotta say about Married to Medicine. Child. Let's talk about blue therapy. So it's Jamel and Deborah, right? Okay, I got their names down because all I kept knowing was Paul and Chioma. Am I pronouncing her name right? Chioma? Is it Chioma or Chioma? Okay. Anyway, she's so pretty. So pretty. Paul ain't shit. Ain't never gonna be shit. So let me get my notes out because I took a lot of notes with them this morning. I love blue therapy. It really is a good... What are they building at the park right here? I think they're building a walkway. I think they're building a walkway. Let me see. Okay, so let's get down here. All right. So, I have my notes. All right, so Jamel and Deborah, and now this episode is kind of focusing on like their families, how they're getting along with each other's families. And Jamel is upset, or not Jamel, Deborah is upset that she has not met Jamel's family, and he met her family after 3 months. They've only been together for a year. I have notes all over the place for them, but he hasn't introduced her to his family, and she thinks, or he says, she's a little bit too loud. Now, she's Nigerian and his family is from Ghana, so I am not familiar with any cultural differences, but the way that Jamel was speaking in his interview made it seem like culturally, I guess there is a thing that Nigerians are louder. Okay. Now, again, I don't want anybody to get offended. This is me learning. Okay. And so that's what I'm gathering from that. Now, that's what he thinks. He doesn't want to introduce the girl to his family because she's too loud. And she was like, you've never seen me in any kind of situation where I would be acting any way. I don't understand why you think I would be loud and act a certain way with your family. People do, people act different, until they get more familiar and relaxed, and then they start being themselves or whatever. So she said, does your family ask you if you're in a relationship? And he basically said, he says he's seen somebody or something like that. So she was kind of offended by that. Deborah is offended by a lot of things that Jamel does, but it was Jamel who actually called the therapist. So to me, I'm like, I give him a little shout out for that. But they seem to have like a lot of trust issues. Like, she has trust issues. She hasn't been in a lot of relationships, which I think he brought up a good point towards the end of the episode. But I feel like he does create arguments to avoid, like he won't answer questions to avoid conflict. But in doing that, it creates more conflict. She says that, he has a lot of female clients. He is a fitness instructor or something like that. So he has a lot of female clients, and she doesn't like it. She feels like it should be a balance. She's very insecure in how he's dealing with women when it comes to his job. Then she mentioned Clubhouse, okay? So on Clubhouse, she says that he has a Clubhouse and he's always on stage, and he blocked her from seeing his Clubhouse, but she's somehow gotten in, of course, her friends or whatever, and that they have this kind of segment in his show where the girls and the guys kind of shoot their shot to each other. And of course, he's on stage because it is his Clubhouse. But then girls start talking to him. He doesn't shoot them down or anything like that. So she has a problem with that too. She doesn't get to see his cell phone. She doesn't touch. It's just trust for her. So that's her big thing. She also says at the beginning he used to give her gifts and stuff like that. And in previous relationships, they bring the representative and then they trail off on, the behavior they're inconsistent, start becoming inconsistent. And she was like, when we first got together, he was giving me a lot of gifts and things like that. But then it's kind of trailing off. So I kind of get scared because that's happened to me before. So she, at the end of the episode, basically says she's not happy. So I'm trying to figure out, because I kept saying, like, why is she staying with him? Because she seems to have so much trust issues, so many trust issues with Jamel. She doesn't trust his job. She doesn't trust him on social media. She doesn't trust him. So I don't know. I don't think the therapist has gotten to it, because I've watched all 3 episodes. But where did the breakdown of trust happen? Like, what did he do? Because they haven't gotten to that yet. He says that he feels like because she's never had a boyfriend, like they're in their early 20s, and she's had situations, but she hasn't had relationships. And I think he says he's had 4 relationships. And she says that, he says that he thinks that she has an unrealistic view of what relationships look like because she watches Love and Hip Hop, which I thought was funny, but I also thought was very, kind of insightful, because I do believe that a lot of these relationships really make you believe that it's like, what can you do for me, right? What can this person do for me? And that's coming from both ends. A man is saying, what can she do for me? She's saying, what can he do for me? And the relationships are just transactional. I want him to be able to buy me gifts. I want to be able to buy him gifts. I want to see what gifts I can buy him and how big the gift has to be, because the more gifts I buy, it shows that I care about this person or I like this person. And so that's what he's saying, and her love language is gifts, and she loves gifts. And so he's like correlating those 2 things together, which I feel like he has a point. I do believe that a lot of, but there's nothing wrong with getting gifts. And I can see where she's coming from. Like, when you start trailing off and getting inconsistent, it's like, okay, so why am I not getting gifts anymore? Because that's what I love. I love to get gifts. So what's the problem? And you know that I love getting gifts. So what's tea? What's happening? So she, at the end of the episode, was basically saying that she wasn't happy. So we're going to see what's going to happen with Deborah and Jamel. I love the lingo because I don't know everything, but I know dodgy behavior is kind of shady and suspect. I was like, okay, dodgy. I love it. I love hearing the lingo because, of course, it's different. So I love listening to them talk. And what else? Too many women at the job. You need to let your mom. You need to let your family know you're with a Nigerian babe. I was like, yes, ma'am. So yeah, he got her blocked on Clubhouse. I think that's kind of shady too. It is dodgy. Okay. But yeah, why? And then, and the therapist did make it a point to kind of call out Jamel, speaking of him and Deborah, like saying that we are doing this and we like to do this and we. And I noticed it too. And then the therapist was like, oh, okay. She was like, I really like that you are using we when you're talking about your relationship. Child, let's get to Paul and Chioma. It's a mess, okay? The main thing, again, is family. They're talking about the family situation. Chioma does not like that Paul's sister dumps the kids. That's the word she used. And I know that I was like, okay, does she dump them over there? But basically, she brings her children over there, and she doesn't like Chioma. So Chioma's like figuring out, like, why do you bring your kids around me? You don't like me. You don't like the way I dress. You're always talking shit about things I do. You always have something to say, but yet and still you bring your kids over here. You dump your kids over here. I'm a babysitter. I see you on Snapchat and everything else whooping it up and having fun, and I'm over here taking care of your kids. The kids need their mother. I don't know if I'm not able to make the kids stop crying. All of a sudden, I'm a bad woman and this and that. And that Paul sees it as me having experience, which I think is a total crock of shit. I do. Why is she bitching about everything that I do? She doesn't like the way Chioma dresses. She doesn't like the food that she makes. She doesn't like how, I guess, her reputation from BK Chat. And she was like, I always was proper on there. I did not act a fool or whatever. So I didn't watch it. You guys let me know how Chioma was acting on BK Chat. But she says, I never conducted myself out of sorts to where anybody could look at me and be like, oh, she's questionable. Like, her character is questionable. She's like, no, I've always, was proper on the show. Paul did not know that Chioma does not like his sister's behavior or his sister's inability or lack of boundaries. She says, I have to make a sacrifice for kids who aren't mine. Why does she give me my kids? Why does she give me her kids if she doesn't like me? Why is she just dropping her kids off over here? She's out with her friends, and she said she has too much shoulder. I said, yes. I said, come on. She said she has too much shoulder in the relationship. I said, come on. I love it. Yeah, you too involved. You get out of my relationship. Now, I think this is cultural for American black folks, continental black folks in the UK. I think culturally across the board, I think just women act funny with other women coming into the household. And what the therapist said was like, maybe the sister feels like you're going to take Paul away from her. And so that's why she kind of gives you a hard time. I don't like his sister. She called her a bitch at one point. Paul was like, oh, you calling my sister a bitch? Okay. She was like, well, maybe I'm not. She was like, and then she, I can't stand this when somebody's like, I'm not calling you a bitch. I'm saying you're acting like one. Bitch, you saying I'm a bitch. If I'm a bitch or I'm acting like a bitch, whatever the fuck, you calling me a bitch. My mom used to do shit like that. She would call me a bitch, and then she would be like, I'm not calling you a bitch, I'm saying you're acting like one. Girl, what is the difference? What is the difference? Don't pull that shit on me. Anyways, so Paul says it made the way that she acts with the kids, or the way that she's speaking about his his nieces and nephews, basically is making him kind of rethink whether he wants to have kids with Chioma or not. Do y'all think Chioma wants kids? I don't know. I can't really tell, but I can tell that it's frustrating for her to have some kids dropped off at her house. Bitch, first of all, you don't like me. That's number one. You don't like me. You got shit to say about how I dress, even though you dress the same way. You got shit to say about me being on BK Chat. You got shit to say about the pasta bake that she made on Christmas. And I guess she was supposed to make Nigerian food, and they was looking at her. But she said that was not the only dish that was made. So the sister acted like she didn't like it. But you dropping your kids over at my house. Like, why would you do that? If you don't really fuck with me, why would you do that? And that would be a question. And then, so the therapist said for Paul to get them together, and he was like, it's irrelevant. At first, because he came back, remember how he left and ran out, and he came back, and when the therapist was asking him questions, he kept saying, no, it's irrelevant, no. And so then when she started talking and then brought up his sister, then he got vocal, like, oh, hold up, you're not about to talk about my sister. So, I agree with the therapist. Maybe the sister is like acting funny. Some people will just be like that. They'll just give you a hard time. You're messing with their brother, you're messing with their sister or whatever. And she says, well, I think if I have brothers, and I think if my brothers gave Paul a hard time, he would be done with our relationship. I think Paul is like he's so self-centered. It's so weird because it was like, how do you expect Chioma, how do you not understand where she's coming from? Like, I feel like that is like, how do you not understand where she's coming from? How would you like it if somebody who acted like they didn't like you brought their children to your house, dropped them off, and went out and partied? And then you still got shit to say about me when I'm over here taking care of your kids for you. You're not paying me, right? I'm not babysitting. You're just dropping your kids off, and I'm like, okay, girl, but you don't like me. And you don't understand that? Like, that's the problem that I have with people, like, really intentionally misunderstanding situations. That's when I get mad, because I feel like you fucking around, because there's no way that you cannot see that that's a problem. Just because it's your sister, you completely can't see why this woman would have a problem with that. I think it's a bunch of bullshit. He says basically you could see where the toxicity is coming from. It's coming from Chioma. It's not coming from my sister. That's not cool. That's not cool. I get it. I understand you want to stick up for your family and this and that. But to me, intentionally misunderstanding where someone is coming from, or intentionally acting like you don't understand the experience that they're having with the person because the other person is acting a certain way, I don't like that at all. I don't like that. To me, you playing games. And I don't do well with people who play games and play riddles and all that other stuff. I don't do well with that. What else? Yeah, that's basically it. What did you guys think? Do you guys think that... I think, first of all, Jamel and Deborah, they're very young, but I think there's a lot of trust issues there. And I would really like to know why she has trust issues with him. Is it just men in general? Or is it because he stopped with the gifts? Like, why don't you trust him? What reason has he given you not to trust him, to where you need a balance with his, workout partners or his clients and things like that? Paul is so haughty and so arrogant, and he gets on my nerves. I don't know how Chioma deals with it, but he gets on my nerves. I don't like the fact that he just could not see where she was coming from, right? Do I think it was okay for her to call his sister a bitch? No. But she was like, I'm on my way to cussing her out, so I need to basically make sure, like, we need to get this together and we need to set some boundaries. And I think it should come from Paul. Like, you can't come and drop. But see, culturally, I don't think that he could tell his sister, you can't drop your kids off with Chioma. It'll be a big mess. I could see it already being a big mess. So somebody needs to have a conversation. That's all I'm saying. Anyways, y'all, what did y'all think of the episode? If you haven't watched Blue Therapy, it is on YouTube. Just type in Blue Therapy and it'll come up and you'll see it. The episodes are like 30 minutes, which I love. I love 30-minute episodes. Anyways, take care of each other. Protect your energy. Peace.